Here is a sentence that appears in almost every American civics textbook. The American people elect the President of the United States. That sentence is not exactly right. The American people elect 538 electors, one for each senator and House member, plus 3 for the District of Columbia under the 23rd Amendment, who then formally cast the votes that elect the president. To win the presidency, a candidate needs 270 of those 538 electoral votes, not a majority of the national popular vote. 270 electoral votes. Tonight on Words with Wentz, episode 102 of the Politics and Social Issues series, we are going to read how that system actually works, where it came from, what its defenders say about it, what its critics say about it, what a popular vote alternative would look like, why third parties struggle in this system, and why changing the system in either direction is significantly harder than most people realize. In episode 101, we asked what it would look like if every candidate got the same campaign funding. Tonight we ask a different question that lives next door to that one. What does the system that determines how votes are counted actually look like? And is it the system the founders intended? I am not going to tell you which system is better. That is one of the genuinely contested questions in American democracy, where I believe the evidence deserves to be laid in front of you and the conclusion should be yours. Both sides have serious arguments. Both sides have documented facts. Tonight, you get both. Let's start with the document that created the system. Article Chakutu, Section 1 of the United States Constitution establishes the Electoral College. Each state is assigned a number of electors equal to its total congressional delegation, 2 senators plus however many House members it has, which is determined by population. This produces 538 total electors. A simple majority, 270, wins the presidency. The system was designed deliberately. In Federalist No. 68, Alexander Hamilton defended it as, in his words, almost the only part of the system which has escaped without severe censure. Hamilton argued that choosing the president through electors selected by the people in each state would produce a careful, informed selection process, preventing both the chaos of direct popular election and the dangerous concentration of power that might result from having Congress choose the president. The 12th Amendment, ratified in 1804 after the contested election of 1800, required separate ballots for president and vice president, fixing a design flaw the founders had not anticipated. The 23rd Amendment in 1961 added 3 electoral votes for the District of Columbia. 48 states use a winner-take-all method. Whichever candidate wins the plurality of the popular vote in that state receives all of that state's electoral votes. Even by a single vote, Maine and Nebraska use a different approach, the congressional district method. 2 electoral votes go to the statewide popular vote winner. 1 electoral vote goes to the winner in each congressional district. This occasionally produces split results, as it did in both states in recent elections. That is the mechanics. Now the debate. Here is the full documented debate. Both columns. I am going to read both to you, and you can decide what you think they add up to. The case for the Electoral College. It forces candidates to build geographically broad coalitions. To win, you cannot simply pile up votes in the 3 or 4 largest cities. You have to compete across multiple states, multiple regions, multiple economic and cultural communities. Defenders argue this produces presidents with genuinely national mandates rather than just urban ones. It protects small state voices. Wyoming, Vermont, Alaska. States with small populations still have a guaranteed floor of 3 electoral votes. Under a pure popular vote, campaigns would have little incentive to campaign in low population states at all. It generally produces decisive outcomes and contains recounts. If a race is close in one state, the recount happens there, not across all 150 million ballots cast nationwide. The case against, or for a popular vote alternative, 5 presidential elections since 1824 have produced winners who lost the national popular vote. The FEC documents 2 in living memory. In 2000, Al Gore received approximately 547,000 more popular votes than George W. Bush. In 2016, Hillary Clinton received approximately 2.9 million more popular votes than Donald Trump. In both elections, the Electoral College winner became president. Because winner-take-all dominates, only a handful of swing states receive serious campaign attention. Voters in reliably safe states, whether Republican or Democrat, have limited impact on the outcome. A Wyoming voter's mathematical share of their state's electoral votes is significantly larger than a California voter's mathematical share of California's, simply because of how the baseline 3 electoral votes interact with population size. Both arguments are documented. Both have serious advocates. The table is in front of you. The Electoral College does not just affect how presidents are chosen. It shapes the entire structure of American political competition, including why third parties struggle and why primaries have become increasingly polarized. The political science concept is called Duverger's law. In systems where elections are decided by plurality in winner-take-all districts, which is the dominant structure of American elections, 2 major parties tend to emerge and consolidate because voters rationally avoid wasting their vote on a candidate who cannot win. Third-party candidates face steep structural barriers in the United States. They must navigate 50 different sets of ballot access requirements. They face high polling thresholds to qualify for presidential debates. And even when they attract significant popular support, winner-take-all means that support rarely translates into electoral votes. The spoiler effect is the documented consequence of this structure. A third-party candidate drawing votes from the major party candidate whose platform most closely resembles theirs can shift the outcome to the opposing major party, not by winning, but by dividing. Primaries are similarly distorted. Because general elections often hinge on swing states and competitive districts, primary voters, who tend to be more ideologically committed than the general electorate, have outsized influence on who emerges as each party's nominee. This incentivizes candidates to position themselves toward their party's base during the primary, then attempt to pivot toward the center for the general election. Critics argue this dynamic has accelerated political polarization, not because voters are more extreme, but because the structure of the primary system selects for candidates who perform better with activated base voters than with the broader electorate. Changing the Electoral College is the subject of regular debate, and the path to doing so is significantly harder than most coverage suggests. The direct path is a constitutional amendment under Article 5. 2/3 of both the House and Senate, followed by ratification by 3/4 of state legislatures, 38 states. Here is the structural problem. Many of the states that would need to ratify an amendment abolishing the Electoral College are small states that benefit from the current system's 3-vote floor. A senator from Wyoming has little incentive to ratify an amendment that would mathematically reduce Wyoming's relative influence in presidential elections. The people who would vote to change the system are often the people who benefit from it, the same dynamic we documented in EDU 45 and EDU 48. A second path exists, the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Under this agreement, participating states pledge to award all of their electoral votes to whichever candidate wins the national popular vote, regardless of how their own state voted. The compact would take effect only when the participating states collectively represent at least 270 electoral votes. As of the bill date of this package, the NPVIC has been enacted in a number of states. The total of committed electoral votes can be verified at nationalpopularvote.com. The compact's legal status remains contested. Critics argue it violates the Constitution's Compact Clause, which requires congressional approval for interstate compacts that affect federal powers. Defenders argue no approval is required because each state retains the constitutional authority to determine how it awards its own electoral votes. That legal question has not been definitively resolved by the Supreme Court. Bush v. Gore in 2000, the Supreme Court's per curiam ruling halting the Florida recount, established that the court will intervene in contested electoral disputes, but it left many of the underlying constitutional questions about electoral administration deliberately narrow and unresolved. When Benjamin Franklin emerged from the Constitutional Convention in 1787, a woman reportedly asked him what kind of government the delegates had created. He is said to have replied, "A republic, if you can keep it." The Electoral College is one of the clearest expressions of what kind of republic the founders designed. Not a pure democracy in which every vote counts identically in a single national tally. A federal republic in which sovereign states, each with their own voice, collectively choose the leader of a union of those states. Hamilton defended that design in Federalist No. 68. The 12th Amendment refined it, the 23rd Amendment extended it, and it has produced 46 presidents, some chosen by the clear will of the national popular majority, and some, as the FEC documents, chosen despite losing the national popular vote. The question this episode leaves with you is not a simple one, and I want to be direct about why I am not answering it for you. This is genuinely one of the questions where the documented evidence supports serious arguments on both sides, and where your answer depends significantly on what you believe American democracy is fundamentally supposed to be. If you believe that a federal republic of states is the right architecture, that geographic balance matters, that small states deserve meaningful voice, that winner-take-all produces the decisive outcomes a functioning government requires, the Electoral College serves those values. The founders designed it for exactly that reason. If you believe that one person, one vote in its fullest sense is the foundational principle, that a candidate who receives more votes from more Americans should become president regardless of where those voters live, then the current system falls short of that principle. The documented evidence of 5 elections where the popular vote winner did not become president supports that concern. Both of those beliefs are American, both have roots in the founding, and the tension between them has never been fully resolved, because the Constitution itself is a compromise between them. A republic, if you can keep it. The question Franklin left open is the same question this episode leaves open. What does keeping it look like? In 2026? The documents are in the description. This is Words with Wentz. Know your rights.
Let the signal cut through the noise. Reading between the lines. Every story leaves a trace, unlocking time and space, finding truth with Wentz. Words with Wentz.